Welcome to Moms Who Lead, where each week I talk to another mom who's balancing motherhood with a leadership role at work. Across industries, locations, and backgrounds, we're all facing the same challenges and opportunities. We talk about them here to help you balance your most important job with your career. So many of us have stories to share and advice to give. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to connect with me, Diana Mitchell, on LinkedIn. Now, on to the show. All right. Hi. I am so excited to have Natalie Gleason here. She's the Director of Marketing Strategy at Direct Development. And funny tidbit, because there's always a connection, almost always a connection with guests, is that Natalie interviewed me for a job many years ago. It feels like it wasn't really that many, but, and she didn't hire me, and that's okay. Or maybe I removed myself from consideration.
You removed yourself, girlfriend.
It wasn't a fit. I liked you, but it wasn't a fit. You would have been a great boss for me. But anyway, and so Natalie is an amazing marketing strategist and a great person and a wonderful mom. And I'm super excited to have her here. And I just gave you the most glowing intro possible, but could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Diana. How do I follow that act up about myself? I try to think that I'm not a narcissist, but let's see. So I'm currently at Direct Development, but when we first met, that was, my time back in the ed tech realm, software industry. And I feel like I've moved over the past 10 years of my career from agency life, mall marketing, to, software. Now I'm back in the agency, but blended with higher ed. So it's kind of, my position to date is very much a conglomeration of all my experiences so far that has really put me in a position to do really good work.
Yes, absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit about Direct Development in general and kind of, I know it's a pretty big company, and also as much as you're comfortable telling us about your family and how many kids, and you don't have to give any names or anything like that, but let us know a little bit about you as a person.
Okay. Well, I'll start family first. So that is me and my husband, Jordan, who works in law enforcement. And we have a little one, Cora. She is 2. Actually, I was thinking about how to age her because she's already 2. She's not quite 2.5. She's in that middle ground. I'm not going to call her like 27 months, but
I know. Yes.
27 months. So weird. But she's like the light of our life and she's amazing. And we live in the Buffalo, New York region. And I grew up here pretty grounded, went to university at Buffalo, had a little stint in the New York City area for a bit, but ultimately came back home to where most of our family lives. So it's very much like our little comfort zone and we love it. And also Direct Development is not in Buffalo. It's actually a company that's based in Fairfax, Virginia that I, met along my experiences with higher education. And they decided to think remotely given the pandemic. So Direct Development is the parent company that has multiple brands beneath it. So we have actually 4 sub-brands: DD Agency, that is an education marketing agency; Novus, which is a nonprofit marketing agency; and Rollify, which is for higher education enrollment marketers, kind of a digital resource hub where we publish a ton of content; and then DD Studio, which is a video production company. So a lot of mini brands going on here. And actually it's not a big company. It's still a relatively small company considering all of the things that we're doing with the industries. We are about 25 people total.
Wow. That's incredible. Congratulations. Look at you taking on all of that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Now, and you said this before. Oh, and I also want to work this in. You're also a fan of Only Murders in the Building.
I am.
So because that's such a defining characteristic of who you are, I promised Natalie that I would work that into the interview somewhere. Please feel free to message me on LinkedIn. At this point, the show will have fully aired.
Right.
Let's discuss. I digress. So you mentioned that when you became a mom, when Cora was born, you were in another role. What stage of your career was that in? You were in a leadership role, but did you feel really comfortable with where you were in your career at the time?
It was actually very exciting. I had just kind of made it to the leadership table. It was, just over a year that I had been with Mongoose, a local organization here to Buffalo, New York. And it was, I was a team of one that grew, on the marketing side of things to, we had 3 or 4 people at the time. And I had just got like, all right, official director of marketing status, joined the management team meetings. And, you know, they knew I was pregnant at the time too. So it was like, yes, like, thank you for just seeing me for who I am and what I can bring to this proverbial table. And, that whole experience was very much like exciting in every possible way, like becoming a mom, feeling like I really had made it to where I wanted to be at that point in my career, but also super scary at the same time, knowing that like I've always been ambitious, career oriented Natalie. I've always also at the same time wanted to become a mom. And it just, the conversations that I was having with, coworkers or beyond, kind of made me feel like I had to choose sometimes. Like, like, oh, you're going to go out on leave and you're going to love it so much. We don't think you're going to come back. And they were telling me how, how I would feel in the moment. I have a very nurturing and personable attitude and, rapport that I've built with friends and coworkers. So it, I understand their point of view. Like they're looking at me like somebody who's very nurturing. And, just kind of started to conflict with my own internal thoughts too. Like, wait, I thought I would definitely be coming back. I don't know. Everything is so new. It's impossible.
That's rough.
To
And you've
know
got hormones and
exactly.
stuff too. So you're already
Right.
like questioning the existence of the world,
Yes. Yes.
That's rough.
But
Was there anyone who like you could look up to and who maybe offered you advice rather than commentary? And I want to say people are well-meaning when they do this, but it is very challenging when you're going through this like tumult of emotions, to have people like throw questions in like existential stuff like that. But was there someone you could like look up to or bounce questions and ideas off of?
yeah, it was honestly, I decided for myself who I wanted my career role models to be. And it was the women who came back to work and were still very like fierce, powerful. Maybe they didn't have leadership positions, but they were crushing it. So I had a lot of people on a parallel path to me that I actually, looked up to. It doesn't matter if you're beyond the years and you have all the experience, or maybe you're behind, like what are the mentalities and attitudes that other women have that resonate most with me? And that's what I kind of collected and took in and into consideration. I'm like, this is what I want. You have to be really honest with what you want at any stage. So
I like that a lot. And when you came back, how did you feel? Did you feel that clarity and that empowerment, or was it a difficult transition?
I felt clarity because we had, we were very fortunate at the company to have a really nice long maternity leave. So I was, it was between 2 and 3 months that I was out spending really solid time with baby girl that I valued and appreciated and, loved every minute of it. But I was also ready. I was ready to come back. I missed kind of my contribution to the world beyond, Natalie at home. I, kind of needed that adult interaction. So it was very clear to me, like, I'm ready to go. Welcome back with open arms. Had a lot of exciting things going on in the workplace that, motivated me to, stay focused. But I think the difficult thing then was, all of the logistics, right? Like I was breastfeeding at the time. So pumping, was annoying. And daycare, I think that the controversy around daycare, like, oh, you're sending her to daycare. And I'm like, yeah, like for the reasons that I feel that I need to and want to, I am. And I have to I felt like I had to defend myself in a lot of conversations around, really, you think that's the best thing for your daughter? Like, yeah, I do. And that's how I know that I can focus, like in my job, in a career world. For me, it means kind of removing as many distractions as possible. And if I've got a little one that's like, oh, I hear that cry or anything, I'm immediately like squirrel, baby. So that is what made sense for me. And I think just feeling confident in that decision and knowing that was best for our family altogether was something that I had to kind of wrestle through a little bit.
If our kids are happy, fed, have plenty to drink and sleep and all of those things, then I people need to mind their own business. Like everyone's life is different. It's funny how that works. And you know where the worst of that is on social media. Like, have you ever joined any mom groups? So I'm plant-based and I was in a vegan moms group. That was the most toxic environment ever. Like I couldn't breastfeed
like, why,
because
ladies?
my daughter's in the NICU and people made it sound like I was this horrible parent. Like, oh my gosh, this triggered my postpartum depression. And you people are like, and it's actually really sad. And that's a little commentary there, but like the mommy environment needs to just lay off. And because it's terrible. Our kids, if our kids are healthy and we're doing everything we can, then, allow people to have their own journeys.
Right. But there's like, on that note though, too, it's that whole idea of like, well, everybody's entitled to their opinion and you can share it. And I never wanted, and I don't want to seem like someone who's closed off to other people's thoughts and perspectives. But ultimately just that mutual respect and understanding that like you can share, but let the other person take their own journey. And I feel like it's absolutely lost on social media because it is such a, transactional conversation where one person says something and you don't get all of the context and you don't have, the seeing eye to eye, literally that could help conversations like that. So it does get very toxic online.
Yeah. And the anonymity cloud, I think, empowers people to say, so rather than saying, hey, when my daughter was born, this really worked well for me, it's, you should do this.
Right.
and that's a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
But, circling back to the work environment, I was thinking of you, not because of your specific experience, but I saw this post on LinkedIn like a week or so ago, and I wanted to get your take on it because it was a woman, a professional who owned a business, I believe, in a different country. She was in Nigeria. And she told a story about an employee who was pregnant and then had her child. And she was celebrating this employee because the employee, the day after her baby was born, was checking emails and responding to them. And she said, see company owners, people are valuable and they're loyal because even if they have a baby, they'll be loyal to you. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. I said, are you valuing the mom who takes maternity leave as much as you value the woman who literally feels that she has to log on the day after her child is born in order to prove something? Like, I was mortified by this. Now, to your point, there are some people who are like, whoa, I just went through this like amazing transformative experience. I need some normalcy. I'm going to log in and check my email. That is one thing, but just to somehow portray that women have to log in order to prove their loyalty, I think is the most, I was really upset. And so I wanted to be respectful, but I said, I hope you value the mom who takes leave and comes back fully ready to come back. That you respect that as much as you respect the mom who gives it up. And she made a really good point. And she said, here, there isn't a respect for that balance yet. And so women have to prove that. And I was respectful. And I said, in the US, it's different. And I think that there was something to say, but I wanted to talk to you about get your take on that, because I think that there is a range still in companies. There are the old fashioned, and I hate putting that label on there. And then there's the companies that are waking up and realizing that you have to cultivate a nurturing culture, a supportive culture in your organization. And it's not a given, and saying that you're supportive isn't the same thing as nurturing that. And anyway, that was a very long-winded way of just kind of throwing at you that notion and kind of getting your take, because you have very nuanced opinions on that. We've had conversations, folks, before on some of these topics. And so I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I see so many things like this that get me, and I don't comment. I don't put myself in there because I'm like, but I will say it here that it just reminds me of the grind, how people value the grind, and to be successful and to be a good worker, you are constantly pouring yourself in. It doesn't matter what hour of the day, or, the people that can get away with, putting those definitive lines, but like just proving themselves constantly, sending that email at 3 o'clock in the morning because it's on your mind and you just happen to be thinking about it, that email can wait, but, that person at the time doesn't want it to. So I would look at that, the woman who felt, that she sent that email herself, the brand new mom who did that, she probably felt like she needed to do that for whatever reason. And, it could be that reason's okay. And like you said, she just wants to still feel connected and she's not, fully in one area. She's still figuring that out for herself, but it also could be, unfortunately, that culture that breeds like, show us you're working. We don't fully trust you. Constantly prove yourself, put yourself out there, do the after hours stuff because, that's the only time that you can really be viewed as successful. And that's not okay. It's something I've learned in my career to set personal, professional boundaries. And for me, a big thing as I've, gone on my journey is to understand I'm good with 40 hours. I'm good with compartmentalizing and, looking at a week's worth of time, 40 hours seems reasonable to dedicate to a job. It just so happens that I love my job and I'm passionate about it. So it makes me happy during those 40 hours. It's not necessarily a chore. There's going to be things that you don't love, but, that's something I'm willing to do for the transaction, for that like money that helps my family thrive. So beyond 40 hours, absolutely willing to make exceptions. And I do, when I'm traveling and things like that. But if it becomes it's expected of you to do beyond or look at everybody else who's doing beyond getting promotions, then that's not okay. And fortunately, where I'm at right now is like, no, that's not applauded. It's, kind of embracing the value that you bring to the table, your capacity, your wits, whatever fits into that. And, not even 40 weeks. It's not about the hours. It's about the, job that you're doing. Are you actually reaching objectives? We set goals. And if we're not, that's a question mark and we have to rethink things.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think you touched on something a little bit that I want to probe a little bit, and that people feel compelled to send that 3 a.m. email, but is the expectation there? And I think that it's companies need to do a better job of if you're not actively cultivating a supportive culture, that's a lot of C's, then you may be creating the antithesis of that and nurturing that and making your employees feel like they have to always be on. And also to your point, there are very few people, in my opinion, and in my old age now of working in this industry since I was in college, almost 20 years, there are very few people who can be at their best and deliver at their highest level over 40 hours a week. And so there's a reason. And I mean, you could get into the history of the 40-hour work week as well, and the notion of that, because there are some people who work very efficiently and they could get the same output and quality at 30 hours, but they're burned after those 30 hours. So and this is just kind of like tossing this out there in a way, but what is your, and that's a generic your, not direct development. What is your organization doing to actively cultivate a supportive culture, and not just for moms, but for all parents or all of us who are, we're 24/7 real people. Because I read this book a few years ago called Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. Not that he's going to listen to this show. He's a pretty good guy.
You never know.
He felt like he had to leave the hospital right after his son was born, and he went into a meeting or on a call or something like that. And at the time, his clients or colleagues were like, "What's the matter with you?" But he felt like he had to. And that was like the wake up moment for him. And that's why he now focuses on what is truly essential. And I try to live that. But, what is your company doing to actively create this culture? And I would argue, too, that more employees are demanding and expecting that as well.
Yes. So just generally speaking, something my company is very good at is performance management. So the structure we have set up and our approach to it is, at least biweekly check-ins to make sure that all of us are supported. All of us we have the resources that we need to do our job, and also checking in on, your workload, your capacity, that burnout feeling. It's something that we want to minimize as much as possible. Like, for the health and well-being of our people, it's so important to regularly check in. So just opening up those conversations and knowing that you have somebody in your corner at all times, that you can just pull aside and say, hey, today's not my day, or hey, raise a red flag over here that, I've got too much on my plate, and we just rework and reorder, and we put the employee first. That's something phenomenal that I've seen. Like, really, we walk the walk there. And then on the parental side of things, I'm super proud that something just happened with a woman that we hired. We, earlier this year, freelanced with a designer. We were trying to figure out our design team and how many people we need on it, and what's the best balance there. And we worked with a freelancer who I knew from previous agency experience locally. I'm like, she could be great at this. She got her feet wet with the company, and we decided, we want to hire full time. Would you be interested? We started having that conversation. She's like, just want to let you guys know transparently, I love you guys, but I'm pregnant and I'm further along than you'd expect. And I was like, okay, so what's the problem there? And she was just, like, I think surprised. And I understand why. Surprised that we didn't really care. We care that this is her first child with her husband, and it's super exciting for them. And we ultimately want her to join the team if that's what she wants. Like, if this is a win-win situation for us, and we have somebody who's super talented and is excited about the work we do, we want you here. We will figure out what, maternity timing looks like and how we can plan for your time off and support you in that way. But like, that really, it doesn't throw us off. So just that was awesome to be a part of, and like kind of leading the interview discussions and going back to, my leadership team and my boss ultimately, and saying, and they're like unfazed by it. And I'm like, yes, this is the way to go.
And I think part of the reason I'm so excited about this show is that I want to normalize these conversations. I don't want them to be the exception anymore, right? And the more we could talk about it and share, hopefully it encourages more organizations. I mean, I've worked in the staffing and recruiting industry for well over a decade now. And it's funny how much organizations spend on recruiting every month. But yet they miss the little things that can make a huge difference on retention and referrals and all the things that cut down on recruiting expenses and lead to better productivity. But it's all such a no-brainer. And things like this matter. And it's just, so I hope that people are really listening and hearing, and just, I know it's hard sometimes, we are, the American puritanical work hard. And then you've got this whole culture, to your point, of the hustle grind culture. And so, to counteract that, it's understandable that our instincts sometimes are like, well, they should be working and they should be doing this to this. But if you can, and really it can happen, stop yourself when you have that thought and think, well, wait a minute, just to take that pause, or to sit in that meeting and everybody is saying one thing and they just say, well, why couldn't we do X? That's all it takes sometimes to change minds and start to turn the tide. And not just because it's the right thing to do, as much of a Pollyanna as I am, because it truly is good for business. I've seen a post from this guy, and I know this is apparently controversial, and I'm not trying to sound controversial, but he owns some Gravity Payments or something like that. And he, a few years ago, said, I'm going to pay all my employees at least $70,000 a year.
Yes, I've seen this.
And I remember, it was all over the news. People were like, this is going to be a huge failure and everything. And I thought, well, that's an interesting experiment. But he's actually been very, very successful. And I don't hang in the hat, in my opinion, over the money per se. But it's the fact of saying, I value my employees and put them first. So I'm sorry if this sounds controversial to anyone. I don't think it should, but we're in a weird time. But I find that really fascinating that, he shares these anecdotes and these things that he's learned by truly putting his employees first, whether that's, when it comes to benefits or culture or whatever. And I think it's intriguing. And I think there's more examples like this than we know. And it's great to hear that, direct development has that. It's just the nature of who you are, because that's very attractive. And so hopefully we can help you with recruiting as you continue to grow and expand your marketing team.
Yes. It's really, that the leadership team too, I have to speak volumes of, because of the cognitive diversity, because of every person having, sure, their own unique perspective on things, but the willingness to listen to others. So I feel like I'm coming with my, very diverse marketing experience, but also business management and also like cultural things. And here's my idea. So we can like brainstorm and we can talk about it, but we also get, input from the rest. We've got our ears to the ground, listening, surveying, understanding what the employees want and putting them first. I've also been in situations prior to this where, it started to feel like employees were, the bottom line is affected by how much employees cost. Like, they're our number one asset, but they're our number one expense. So how can we, shift gears and look at, how to be more efficient and more profitable? Those types of conversations, start to get like a little icky. So we want to make sure, okay, yes, for business purposes, we have to be mindful of the numbers. But we all know that employees who want to work at the company and you set that foundation of the cultural experience that they want to be a part of are going to perform better. They're going to feel like they belong to something, they can stand behind that mission. Their work is going to look better. They're going to do it faster, all of the good things, anecdotally, but also there's, data that shows it too. And I feel like the more companies who can really just look at the employee contribution and value it enough are going to really succeed.
That's good stuff. Now, this actually all was really great stuff. Is there any parting piece of advice that you might share, either advice that was given to you or just something that you've learned, whether it's for an organization or an individual that you'd like leave as your parting gift, so to speak?
I'd say that the whole idea of personal professional boundaries and truly being honest with yourself. So however you want to, whether you're having your first child, second child, or your kids are grown, but you find yourself battling with like, what is this work-life balance need to be? Just set those boundaries and make sure that you can truly enjoy the work that you do. Because as soon as it tips over that boundary you set and becomes potentially a toxic situation, you're just going to go downhill from there. So just be honest, be clear with yourself, set those, talk to your spouse, talk to the people in your surrounding, like trusted bubble, and make sure that you're setting yourself up to not be, jaded or taking the wrong turn.
Oh, that's good. I like that. And I think too, the whole point about being jaded too, like if you can't set the expectation for yourself and you don't communicate it with your employer, you can be resentful toward the employer when in reality you had that opportunity. Sometimes, not putting blame on it, but sometimes it can happen because you write your own narrative. Like, and I think so many of us do this, particularly in marketing. I don't know why, but I think
we're storytellers.
Yes. I think moms everywhere do this too. But no, that's great advice, Natalie. Good stuff. So if someone wants to connect with you or direct development, where would they go?
Yep. You can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Natalie Gleason, or my personal email address I can share and put out in the comments.
Oh, cool. And, we'll put a link in the show notes as well to your LinkedIn profile. So,
okay.
And direct development, what about a website, or do you have a company website as well as before? Okay.
Yep. So our parent company, Direct Development, it's directdevelopment.com. And from there you can navigate to whichever brand holds your interest.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you so much. This is great. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Diana.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for sitting in with us this week. My hope is that you feel supported, understood, and heard. I appreciate that you took the time to be here. Let me send a quick shout out to our subscribers who join me here every week. I am so honored. And if you haven't already, be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. My URL is linkedin.com/in/Diana Mitchell 716. Take care out there, everyone.